Player hasn't been far from the headlines in recent weeks. Anthony Gordon. Let's go to the back page of The Sun. The headline, "For the Love of God." An exclusive here by Charlie Wyatt saying that Arsenal will reignite their interest in Anthony Gordon this summer and hope to land him for £75 million. He's had an upturn in form, Johnny, in the last few weeks for Newcastle, playing through the middle. Is he worth that amount of money? Will he improve this Arsenal team, do you think?
Is he an upgrade on Martinelli and Trossard? I think, yeah, marginally. No, obviously the money is there with Arsenal. There is the issue of Newcastle's willingness to sell, because you have a potential exodus for them this summer. Like, the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali or Lewis Hall, Livramento they could all go. I mean, it could be a fire sale this summer, especially if they don't reach the Champions League or if they don't qualify for European football. The other factor I think Gordon will be considering is whether Arsenal and Arteta are going to develop him as a player. We've seen what happened with Eberechi Eze, who I think was pretty much a shoo-in to go to the World Cup at the start of the season. And you say probably still will, but isn't 100%. I think he's gone backwards in terms of that. And it's not entirely his fault. It's a period of adaptation, because the football that he's being expected to play at Arsenal, and this will apply to Gordon as well, the kind of defence he's coming up against, the kind of system he's going into, will require a period of adaptation. And it's whether that period of adaptation is going to be worth it in the long term to make himself better, to win trophies, to improve himself, and whether it's worth taking that slight risk in the short term, because he is a fantastic player. I'm a huge Anthony Gordon fan. I'd be interested to see how it works out in practice. That's all I'd say.
Yeah. He's just such an exciting player to watch, particularly in the last few weeks.
Well, Jules is one of the writers that is picking their Premier League player of the season so far over on our ESPN website. His pick, though, is not a certain Martin Ødegaard, though, who has been overshadowed somewhat by Eberechi Eze. And Stevie had this to say about Ødegaard's future.
Ødegaard might be leaving Arsenal.
Coming next, Stevie. That's quite a statement.
Well, if you're Ødegaard and you're the captain, and 18 months ago you were the guy, and all of a sudden, I know he's had a couple of injuries, but all of a sudden there's question marks whether he actually starts in the 11 because of Eze. Maybe even because of the way he's been playing, somebody else might get ahead of him as well. So if you're Ødegaard, do you stick around? I don't think you do.
Jules, what do you make of what Stevie had to say about the Ødegaard situation?
Yeah, I think the question has to be asked, really, about his place in this team, the future. He's been a bit underperforming really the last 18 months. He's still the club captain. Mikel Arteta still loves him. I think he still has a lot of credit in the bank, for sure. But it's a highly competitive squad to start with, because there's players in his own position that can play, that offer something very different to what he has as well. I don't think he will leave. I think there's still a lot of love for him and support for him at the club, especially from Arteta. I think there's a place for him in that team if he gets back to his best. Which we saw not that long ago as well. So, but I think it's a good point too, and I think there's probably some fans who share what Stevie thinks. I think it's probably a right question to ask right now, because it's a key moment in this season, and I think right now it's a very important time for Martin Ødegaard, like it is for Arsenal Football Club. And then we see what the second half of the season brings, and then I think we probably have a clearer image or idea of what's going to happen in the summer at the end of the season.
Shaka, if you were Ødegaard, what would you do?
Well, first of all, let me say, I don't see Ødegaard leaving before the end of next season. I think over the course of the next 15 months or whatever it is between now and the end of next season, you may slowly start seeing a change of the guard to Eze playing in that position. I totally understand the sentiment. As you look at Ødegaard and you start to wonder, what is his big plus? What is his big upside in this Arsenal side? Still the captain, yes, but I think Declan Rice has established himself more as a leader than Martin Ødegaard to this point. And then when you look at the stats between him and Eze, certainly Eze stands out, and he's been kind of stop-start, or at least Arteta has made him a little bit stop-start. But Ødegaard, for me, hasn't been the player that we saw 2 years ago, and is not the player that Eze is, who would engage defenders and make you rethink, given his runs and his talent on the ball. He's not the kind of passer that maybe you saw 2 years ago, or you associate with somebody sitting in that position, like a dare I say, Kevin De Bruyne. So he doesn't scare you. In terms of his role and that position. So without that leadership aspect of it, what is Ødegaard's primary role in this team, defining role in this team? I'm not sure that is there anymore. I still think that given how things are going, there won't, especially if Arsenal go on and win the title, there won't be major change in the summer. That will come a little bit slower, which is why I say I don't feel we'll be having that earnest discussion about Ødegaard's future until this time next year, thinking what's he going to do come summer 2027.
Jules, up next, of course, is a London derby, Arsenal facing Chelsea. Do you feel like Ødegaard will start in this one?
I think this is really interesting because he didn't start against Spurs last Sunday because he was not fully fit, just coming back from an injury. And don't forget that Eberechi Eze didn't start in that number 10 position, well, that right-hand side in the midfield 3 position. In the previous league game against Wolves, for example, because Bukayo Saka played there like he did when he played in the FA Cup against Wigan 3 days or 4 days before. So, I don't know, you would think that with the momentum of the performance that Eze had against Spurs, that it would be him, especially if Ødegaard is not fully fit yet to start a Premier League game of this caliber with the intensity and everything that is at stake in the game. Maybe, but I don't think it's a given either for Eberechi Eze to start that game. And you could see Ødegaard could play there. You could see maybe something slightly different from a Mikel Arteta point of view, maybe in that midfield. My money is on Eze, and I think it's, I'm sure the boys would agree with me. But again, we've seen a few surprises from Arteta in that position already this season.
Well, let's see if the boys do agree with you. Stevie, do you agree with Jules that your money's on Eze to start?
Well, yes, I think he should start. But as Joe said at the end there, Arteta's done some, he's thrown some wobblies at us. And so if you're Eze, you can't be totally confident. If you're Eze, sitting waiting on that team sheet going up. Because he's been in and out as well. A couple of weeks ago, he looked frozen. Mm-hmm. Never mind Ødegaard. Now, all of a sudden, he's back in pole position. So I expect Eze to start, but with Arteta, you never know. Do you think that comes from Pep? I mean, Pep used to do that all the time. I think sometimes he thinks back to what Pep did because he thinks he's surprising teams. But unfortunately, too many times, yes, you surprise the opposition, but you surprise your own team and you upset your own team as well. So if Arteta's got his try to be clever head on, then I don't know what to expect.
I'd start Eze. And I'd start Eze because of how I expect Chelsea to play. Now, given what you saw, particularly in the second leg of that Carabao Cup, where Chelsea just kind of, albeit was at Arsenal, Chelsea just kind of sat and defended. And was it at Arsenal or Stamford Bridge's second leg? Whichever way. Chelsea just sat and defended and hoped to bring a surprise in the last 15 minutes. I expect Chelsea's approach to be very much the same this time around. Again, just sit back, defend, soak pressure up, and hope to come out in the last 15 minutes. In which case, you need somebody just to shake things up a little bit in that attacking third. And Eze can be that for Arsenal when Arteta allows him to be. So for me, if I'm picking the squad, I'm picking Eze to give Chelsea a whole lot more to think about.
Well, Jules, Arsenal got a big result in the North London derby, but they did drop some points in their 2 games before that against Wolves and Brentford. So looking at this matchup now against Chelsea, could this be another potential banana skin for Mikel Arteta?
I think it's a massive game because of the momentum that they have now after that win against Tottenham last Sunday. That doesn't mean that you forget what happened against Brentford and Wolves when you dropped those points, when you were leading as well in those games, which is something that you can't really afford to do when you are in this kind of title race with a team like Manchester City. But there's that momentum. You're back at the Emirates as well, which I think is very important. And you're facing a Chelsea team that we saw against Burnley probably deserved to lose that game at Stamford Bridge against Burnley. That the week before that could only draw against Leeds again at home after being 2-0 up in that game. So it's not the best version of Chelsea right now. I think Rosinho is still finding out or trying to figure out what is the best formula for his current team. Is he Cole Palmer on the right hand side? Where do you play Enzo? If you play Enzo as a 10, I'm not sure this is very good for Palmer. If you play Palmer as a 10, that means you play Enzo deeper. I don't think this is really good for Enzo, especially for a game like this against Arsenal. So there's a lot of question marks over what Rosinha has to do or is doing or is not doing, maybe even at Chelsea. So it's probably a good time if you're Arsenal to play Chelsea. It's probably a good time for Chelsea to play Arsenal, and in a way, having to be fully focused, a bit like what Arsenal had to do when they went away at Spurs last Sunday after the Wolves result. That is a bit similar to what Chelsea went through with the draw against Burnley at home. So it's quite similar, but Chelsea need to wake up pretty quickly. Otherwise, even that 4th and 5th place could escape them very quickly against Liverpool and United.
All right, with all that said, let's have a look at the predictions that our panel has for this one. Surprise, surprise, surprise. We all went for a win for Arsenal.
That means
Chelsea are going to win.
What that
Chelsea fans, we have just jinxed Arsenal for you, so you're welcome in advance.
Arsenal's internal shakeup continues, and the latest departure signals that the restructuring behind the scenes is far from over. James Ellis has stepped down from his role as technical director just 7 months after being promoted. According to BBC Sport, Ellis, who only took on the position last August after serving as head of recruitment, has now left the club amid what appears to be a wider internal overhaul. His exit doesn't come in isolation. In December, Arsenal appointed former Napoli executive Maurizio Micheli to a senior recruitment role, a move widely seen as part of the club's long-term structural reset. Just months earlier, Andrea Berta had been confirmed as sporting director, effectively replacing Edu Gaspar. That appointment alone signaled a new era. Now, with Ellis gone, the transformation feels even more deliberate. Ellis joins Edu and former CEO Vini Venkatesham among high-profile departures from the Emirates hierarchy. Both Edu and Venkatesham moved on to new roles. Edu taking on a global director of football position at Nottingham Forest, and Venkatesham joining Tottenham. However, neither situation appears entirely stable. Edu's time at the City Ground has reportedly been turbulent. Nottingham Forest's dramatic drop in form since his arrival has raised serious questions about the project's direction, and indications suggest his tenure there may not last much longer. Meanwhile, at Tottenham, Venkatesham has come under intense scrutiny from Spurs supporters, particularly for his initial backing and continued support of Thomas Frank, even as results and performances deteriorated from December onward. Eventually, Igor Tudor was appointed interim manager, and his first match in charge came in the most demanding fixture possible, the North London derby against Arsenal. Despite having just 7 days in the job, the 47-year-old Tudor understands the magnitude of the occasion and the adversity he's facing. "We trained with 13 players," Tudor admitted. "That's the reality. It's not ideal, but in moments like this, the challenge becomes even greater. And so does the opportunity to succeed." He added confidently, "We will have 13 players ready, and that's more than enough to achieve what we want on Sunday. I understand the importance of this match. It's a North London derby. Everyone expects 3 points from us. We are aware of that." Arsenal, however, arrive at the derby carrying frustration of their own. Consecutive draws against Wolves and Brentford have slowed their momentum, and Mikel Arteta made it clear there could not be a better fixture to respond. "It's the next game, and it's the one we're most excited to play," Arteta said. "If we could play today, we would. We have to use that feeling in our stomach the right way, and show it on Sunday." There are also selection decisions looming. Despite Eberechi Eze scoring 3 times in the reverse fixture, his place in midfield is no longer guaranteed. Competition has intensified, particularly after positive fitness updates on Kai Havertz and Martin Ødegaard, both capable of operating in similar roles. "We'll have to wait until tomorrow," Arteta said cautiously. "But there's a strong possibility that both of them will be available." With tension rising both on and off the pitch, this derby feels bigger than usual. Arsenal are reshaping their leadership structure. Tottenham are battling instability, and both clubs are searching for momentum at a crucial stage of the season. Sunday won't just be about 3 points. It's about direction, identity, and control in North London. The broader picture, however, stretches beyond one derby or one boardroom exit. What is unfolding at Arsenal is a defining phase, a moment where structural decisions off the pitch could shape the club's competitiveness for years to come. The departure of James Ellis raises natural questions about continuity and recruitment strategy. Arsenal have invested heavily in building a data-driven, modern scouting network over the past few seasons. Under Mikel Arteta's leadership, recruitment has largely aligned with a clear footballing identity: younger profiles, tactical intelligence, technical security, and long-term resale value. Now, with Maurizio Micheli and Andrea Berta positioned as key figures, the club appears to be centralizing authority even further. For supporters, the concern isn't necessarily change, it's instability. Frequent turnover at executive level can create uncertainty during crucial transfer windows. With the summer approaching and expectations growing after consecutive near-title pushes, Arsenal cannot afford missteps in squad planning. Rivals are strengthening. Margins are thin. Every decision matters. On the pitch, the North London derby carries added psychological weight. Arsenal's recent draws against Wolves and Brentford weren't just dropped points. They dented momentum at a critical juncture of the season. Title races are often defined by response, how quickly a team reacts after disappointment. Arteta understands that narrative. Privately, there is belief within the squad that performances have not dipped as sharply as results suggest. Arsenal have maintained strong possession metrics, defensive structure, and chance creation numbers in recent matches. The issue has been efficiency, converting control into decisive moments. Against Tottenham, that margin for waste disappears. For Spurs, the situation feels even more volatile. Igor Tudor's interim appointment reflects urgency rather than long-term planning. Training sessions with limited numbers underline the squad's injury struggles, and depth will be tested against one of the league's most organized sides. Yet derby matches rarely follow logic. Emotional intensity often overrides tactical predictability. Another layer to the story is the competitive landscape at the top of the table. With Manchester City and Liverpool maintaining relentless standards, any slip can reshape the standings instantly. Arsenal know that draws at this stage can feel as damaging as defeats. The pressure is no longer about proving progress. It's about delivering silverware. Internally, Arteta's message has reportedly been direct: block out external noise. The boardroom reshuffle, media speculation, and scrutiny around player selection cannot bleed into matchday focus. Leadership inside the dressing room, particularly from senior figures, becomes crucial in moments like this. There is also anticipation around the possible return of Kai Havertz and Martin Ødegaard. Their availability would not only boost tactical flexibility, but also restore leadership and composure in key phases of play. If both are fit, Arteta faces a selection dilemma, but one he would welcome. In North London, perception shifts quickly. One result can calm doubts or intensify them. A victory would reassert Arsenal's authority, silence questions about momentum, and reinforce belief in the current project despite executive turnover. A setback, however, would amplify concerns about consistency at the worst possible time. Ultimately, this is a convergence of narratives: structural change, title ambition, squad depth challenges, and historic rivalry. The derby will not define the entire season, but it will send a message. And right now, both clubs are desperate to control that message.